Hey everybody, Matt Michaels here, and this is the DeFalco Files with the one and only owner and creator of FSW, Future Stars of Wrestling here in Las Vegas, Mr. Joe DeFalco. Joe, how you doing today?
Doing all right. I kind of got a little screwy. I was thinking it was the Skype, it's the Zoom. I forgot. I'm waiting for your call. I'm sitting here. Long day. Another long, exciting day arguing with my kid about everything. So, you know.
And of course, with us is someone who is probably one of the hardest ass-kicking, ass-beating-taking motherfuckers I've ever seen in my life. The one and only Funny Bone. How you doing, Mr. Bone?
I'm fucking great.
So, Joe, how did you first hear about Funny Bone? Did you hear about him in the early 2000s when Bone
started? I didn't hear about anything. I was at the UWF Rush's school, and I was involved with that when some young kid, blonde hair, came in looking to be a wrestler. And that's how I had met Funny Bone. And then when we decided to do some things on our own, the Vegas Extreme stuff, Funny Bone was a part of that. I remember he was in the debacle battle royal that we had. Remember that, Bone, back in, I think, 99 or something like that. And Funny Bone is one of the few guys that was actually at our very first event at the swap meet, but he couldn't be in the tournament because, being the crazy fuck that he is, like a month earlier, he broke his collarbone up in NorCal or something like that.
That's still broken.
Oh, Jesus, man. Is that how you remember things, Bone?
Yeah, unfortunately for me, the first face I saw when I entered the wrestling school was Joe DeFalco's. So that should have been a clear sign. I should have stopped there. Now, I've known him my whole career. I'm Vegas. I've been around in Vegas for almost 20 years now. I've done Vegas Extreme. I was at FSW's first show. I'm the reason Kenny King's the first champion. I fucked over the other guy. Derek something.
Yeah, Derek Nykirk. Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
What happened with that? What happened
with that? We were going to be doing a feud, and then with Funny Bone not being able to be there, Kenny being the hometown guy, Funny Bone being a hometown guy, we didn't have very many of them. You know, most of the Vegas wrestlers didn't really exist anymore because there was their transition from Rush's school. Funny Bone and Kenny, because Kenny was working, the Ring of Honor, FIP in Florida, but Funny Bone was like the only Vegas guy that continued to wrestle when there was no wrestling going on in Vegas. That's why you always see Funny Bone up with the Hood Slam, and a lot of those guys like the Commandos and Chupacabra and that crew. It's kind of like when I say Hammerstone is a local guy to me. I'm pretty sure Funny Bone will agree when it comes to the Commandos and Chupi and all those guys in the crew. Funny Bone's really the local guy to them. He just happens to live in Vegas.
Yeah, I travel a lot. I am the only guy from UWF that kept wrestling. Everybody else fucking retired and shit. That was it. I have a fucking reunion. I'm like, no, I'm wrestling.
What in your sense, why did you start wrestling? What was that? Was it an outlet for you?
No, wrestling, I watched it when I was a little demon child. My whole life I've been watching wrestling. I don't ever remember not watching wrestling, but very specific match actually between Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio that WCW put on Saturday morning of kind of a fuck you to them, like your shit sucks. And I watched it. It was the most amazing match I've ever seen in my life at that time. This is probably 95, 96 maybe. And it was probably a little later than that, 97, 98 maybe. I don't fucking know, man. I'm old. I don't give a shit. But I watched the match. It literally went from wanting to be a pro wrestler to having to be a pro wrestler. And that was literally it right there, is Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio.
And there was nothing really going on in Vegas at the time you started with, training, right? It was really
UWF was the only thing going.
Yeah.
We had like these free weekly shows. We had amazing trainers there, but that's all I can say about that place. Scott Casey and Nick Bockwinkel were my trainers. I stuck with them as long as I could, especially Scott. When Rush gave up the school, some other little fuck had it, and I helped run it with that guy till he blew all his money like an idiot. After that, though, I kept fucking wrestling. I was always out of town. I was always wrestling in NorCal. For my entire career, I wrestled like minimum of 5-6 times a month, maximum of 18 actually. Yeah, I'm on. Usually, like when wrestling's going and stuff like that, I'm on the road about 200 days a year.
Yeah. Wow. Joe, what was it about Funny Bone? Did you see anything in him? Did you see, was it the desire? Was it the passion when he was a young guy training? Or did he have something to him?
Oh, there was definitely a lot of passion. I remember at training one day that Funny Bone like passed out, and we were going to call 911 because we thought he was really fucked up, and he ended up being okay. And he was like, fucking don't call nobody. And, he went about his, and I can't remember the full details, but I remember he was kind of like passed out. I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Is this guy okay? And then he came to, and, he was ready to keep going.
I remember that fully. I did pass out. When I first started wrestling, I worked a full-time job bucking hay. As loud as that fucking sounds with this face, especially. Wow. So I did that. I went to school because I was still in school when I first started training. I went to work. I worked there for like 6-7 hours bucking hay, like 20 tons of hay a day. Then I went to training. After a couple like warm-up drills, blow-up drills, stuff like that, just running around the fucking ring, I literally just dropped. I don't remember who was there really besides Rush and some other fuck. The guy who used to puke in the shirt like that. I remember they helped wake me up, splash water on me and everything like that. As soon as I was up, I was like, all right, let's keep going. And like he said, I fucking, they're like, we're going to call the ambulance. I'm like, fuck calling the ambulance. I'm good. Let's go.
Wow. Joe, when you see that kind of commitment, did you ever think that one day that you might be starting a company and looking for that kind of person to add to the mix? Or was it one of those things when you started FSW, like you knew right away, hey, I got to just call Funny Bone because I know he's got a good career going and he'd be, important to us? Well,
we knew that we didn't have a really large local base to pick out of. And as I said, knew Kenny for a while from Rush's days. We knew Funny Bone. Legacy was trying to start up his own thing, and he had some of the younger cats that were trying to get involved. And then we had some of the older crew, the Reno Tafulis, Partain, the Butcher, Alofa, whatever we called them at the time. But moving forward, Kenny and Funny Bone were basically going to be the two mainstays. And I always got along with Legacy, super great guy. And those were the three Vegas guys that we were really expecting to be a major part of FSW. And, initially we did the first show at the Rancho Swap Meet, and we had known through the Vegas Extreme days, Jack Slammy, who was one of the announcer guys, he had gone to not OVW, it was HWA actually back then with Les Thatcher. And that's how he met Derek Nykerk, who went on to be part of Heyman Security, got re-signed, part of the WWF, but he became friends with guys like Mike Knox and Gallo and Navajo Warrior. So we had a little crew of guys. And then Jack came from APW, where he had first started. So he hooked us up with Mike Modest. So we kind of put together this little crew, and even with Vegas Extreme, like Ace Steel, Bison Smith, and, you know, Funny Bone was very, very early in his career. Like, I don't even know if he wrestled any matches in Vegas Extreme, maybe a couple. Not that we ran more than 3 shows, but I specifically remember a battle royal. And if you remember Funny Bone, now known as Shane Dynasty, I believe he went as like Fangoria back then. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, Shane Dynasty actually wrestled 1 or 2 of those shows.
No, I remember Shane Dynasty. I just don't call him that bullshit anymore. That's Doc Atrocity.
Yes.
Gotta respect the gimmick.
That was
Bone. What was your take on seeing these guys putting this together? And at this point, had you been working in NorCal, and did you know Modest before he came down here?
I heard of Modest. I never met him firsthand. I did an APW show before he came out here. My first ventures outside of Las Vegas was NorCal. I did like SPW, APW, and some other bullshit. The one show I did for APW, he wasn't at that time. SPW, no, he wasn't fucking there either. Shane Dynasty or Doc Atrocity was, though. That's actually how I first met him. But yeah, no, my first time meeting Mike Modest was when he was out here for FSW's first show.
Gotcha. And what the swap meet was the first show. What was the first show that you were on, Bone, for FSW? Do you remember?
It was probably a Silver Nugget show.
Joe, do you have any recollection of that first match that Bone did?
The first match he had, I believe, was the first show at the Silver Nugget. The first thing we were going to do, we had already crowned a heavyweight champion at the swap meet. And thanks to Funny Bone, Kenny King beat Derek Nykirk. So then we found, 8 teams to challenge for the tag titles. And we brought in the Suburban Commandos. And I remember in the first round, they wrestled the Bondu. So that was actually the second show at Silver Nugget, because that's when we started the tag team tournament. And at the time, Funny Bone and Legacy, because they were the Vegas guys, so they became the tag team, which we had a great story with Funny Bone, with Legacy, to Legacy turning on him, and basically that's when Leon Hader became a part of it. So one of our first major storyline feuds was Funny Bone and Legacy, because they advanced in the first round. I think they beat the Atlantic City All-Stars. That was Ryan Castellucci and this guy Woody, who was like this big bodybuilder guy, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken. But the big deal was we had set it up. It was going to be a 4-way ladder match for the tag titles. And everybody knew of Funny Bone. He broke his collarbone. He's jumping off the top of a basketball hoop. He's always been known to be the crazy guy. He's the guy who, we named the show after him, No Risk, No Reward. And I remember he was perched on the top of the ladder, and he had the opportunity to grab the tag belts and be the first ever tag team champion. But instead, he jumped off the top of the ladder and not into the ring, but out onto the concrete floor. And there was guys like Modest and Gallo and a whole bunch of others that he came crashing down on. And that was one of many Funny Bone moments at the Silver Nugget, where he would jump off the highest spot that he could get to in a match.
Yeah, actually, to be correct, I did a moonsault off the ladder to the floor.
Yes.
You did a moonsault. That's fucking amazing. With that, Bone, do you enter let's say, you know, if it's someone like somewhere like Silverton or Samstown, or any of the places that you go, do you do a pre-look at what the setup is before to kind of get an idea of what you could utilize to do something like that?
Yeah, every time. Every venue I've ever walked into, I always check it out to see if I can do something stupid as fuck. The Silver Nugget, for example, I ended up jumping off the biggest dive probably in Vegas history. It was like 25, 30 feet up. They had a setup above the entranceway to film like a hard cam of like the whole venue.
Right.
And I climbed up there and I actually jumped on Leon Hader when he was still a referee, and some security guards and shit like that. Probably has one of the greatest clips of FSW history because my son was in the first row and the camera was shot like right over his shoulder. And at the time he looked back at my then wife with an awe in his face. And I used to be a part of FSW's like entrance highlight reel. That was the end of me jumping off this big fucking scaffolding. And then my son just in awe of what the hell his dad just did because he's an idiot. It was a great fucking clip. Like, I remember my son used to tell his friends to watch it because he was on TV and shit like that. But he was taking credit for my bullshit. But yeah, I've jumped off fucking everything I could, basically. I did that. Anytime I got a ladder, I'm going to jump off that bitch. What was it? The fucking mesquite shows. I jumped off the lighting structure at the mesquite shows. That went over well with them. They were very happy that I did that.
Yes, very, very, very much so.
They fucking hated me. As a matter of fact, Joe, you brought it up. The one moonsault I did off the basketball rim that actually got us kicked out of that venue in NorCal too.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that was the last time we worked there. Not the first time I fucked shit up. I don't give a fuck.
With that attitude, Joe, how many times do you have to hold your breath when you see it just happening? Or do you now, are you kind of desensitized and know that, hey man, he's a professional, he's been doing it for 20 years and I trust what he's doing, he'll come out of it as safely as possible or else he wouldn't do it?
Well, I remember before the show in Mesquite where Bone came up to me to tell me about jumping off the lighting truss, and I'm thinking, man, what the fuck? And I think Mike DeLight was one of the guys you landed on, right?
Yeah.
And that was pretty high. I'm not sure if that wasn't higher than the one in the Silver Nugget.
No, the Silver Nugget's still highest. If I jumped off the top of the scaffolding, the lighting structure at Mesquite would have been the highest, but I climbed up as high as I could, and there's too much bullshit in my way to get up any higher. So I had to jump off like 3/4 the way up.
Was that an outdoor show?
No, inside the they have a giant tent that's similar to the Silvertons,
okay,
but it's 3 times the size.
Yeah.
Wow. So Bone, is there something in the sense that you get when you do something like that that feeds into that, your adrenaline when you actually hear the pop? Is that kind of what drives you to do it? Is that thrill of hearing the audience reaction?
No, not really. Like I rarely pay attention to their reaction when I do stupid shit. I'm more focused on what I'm doing. My job, in my personal opinion, is to give them their money's worth plus from just when the bell rings for my match. If there's something I can do to give them a moment that they can take with them for their life, I'm going to do it. Whether it's making them cry because they're a little kid and I scared the fuck out of them, or if it's jumping off of something stupid as fuck, or landing on Legos, or stapling my 8x10 to Sinn's fucking skull and signing it. Doesn't matter what it is. I want to give them something. I want to give as many wrestling fans as possible moments that they could tell their kids about when they take them to their first show, and shit like that. Like, I just scared the fuck out of this kid in where the fuck was I? Oklahoma. He was broken, right? Like absolutely broken. He couldn't come anywhere near me. I ended up sneaking up behind his parents when his parents were taking a picture of him. And I just popped my head out, and you just see this horror on the kid's face, and then he ran away, and I laughed. But in all reality, I like that because he's never gonna fucking forget me.
Yep.
And that's my goal. I want to give people their money's worth. I want to give them something to remember, something to talk about, something to post about. I want to give them everything that I can. If I could do something stupid like that, fuck it, let's go.
Joe, what was your pathway then in the early FSW days in terms of you utilizing Funny Bone? Did you have any, plans of, potentially working them back into the heavyweight title picture, or what was kind of the direction you were looking at?
Well, there was a lot of ideas that were bandied about. He was involved in title matches, I believe, with Alcatraz and Mike Modest. I even remember a three-way. It was a hair versus hair match, yet none of them had any hair, you know what I mean? And, back in the day, like, there's so many things that you kind of forgot about. And when Funny Bone won the No Limits title, for some reason, I thought that was the first time he won, but he had won it a lot earlier. And probably like 2011 and 2012, Did you beat Legacy for the first time?
Yeah, I beat him in a ladder match. You were very happy with me afterwards because I broke like 4 of your ladders, and you had to replace them. But no, I beat him in a ladder match for the fucking belt. It was like 2010.
Okay. And then later on, he had got it back. But the funny thing is, like, over the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, as he said, he does a lot of traveling. So with us, he's become more of a special attraction. But even as a special attraction, he's had some of the best matches we've had in FSW. Him and Cody, the steel cage match, is a classic. He had a match at the Mecca where, everybody knows the Mecca. We bring in some big name guys, and him and Damian Drake stole the show, and they had the match of the year. And, a lot of people, they look at Funny Bone and they say, oh, this crazy fuck, hardcore, blah, blah, blah. I remember him at the Silverton having a mat classic with TJ Perkins. So he can do anything he wants to do. He's just crazy and loves to do a lot of crazy shit. But if he wasn't allowed to, he'd be one of the best wrestlers on the roster.
I am one of the best wrestlers on the roster.
That makes a lot of sense. With your choice of finding the character, and like we always say in entertainment, part of your character is bringing your own persona to it and just making it larger than life. Do you think, as a mat wrestler, who you are could have translated into, say, a modern day, like a Shawn Michaels type, or a Bret Hart type, or something like that, as compared to the wonderful character you've created?
I mean, realistically speaking, I got trained by the best. Let's just be honest. Nick Bockwinkel's not one of the best. He's the fucking best. I've had that argument with people, and they're wrong. That's just it. I know how to wrestle chain. I know how to brawl. I know how to fly. Realistically speaking, I haven't shown my skill set when it comes to technical wrestling in many years. I haven't shown my skill set when it comes to high flying in many years. I can do that better than half the fucking roster now. I've done 450s off the middle rope. I've done fucking shooting star presses and all that stupid bullshit. Just choose not to. I'd rather jump up and stomp you on your fucking skull. It is very much character driven, my style and my antics and everything like that. When it comes to wrestling, though, if there's a style that needs to be done, I can do it. I just choose not to. Mostly just like to hit people in the fucking face.
So then getting to that match, since you brought it up, Joe, with Damian Drake, I totally agree. It's probably one of the best matches I've seen live, period. I mean, and, you know, I've seen tons of fucking shit throughout the years. The story that was told was beautiful, and the work rate was amazing. Do you think that Funny Bone wrestling a guy like Damian at that point in Damian's career, and this is, you know, just a handful of months ago, you know, half a year ago or so, do you think that Bone brings out the man in someone like a Damian Drake to where they've grown up to that next level?
Well, you got to also understand that Funny Bone goes way back with Damian Drake's dad. So there was a lot of personal things going on in that match. And Damian Drake's first real big opportunity at FSW was against Funny Bone at the Silverton many years ago. And during that match, Funny Bone pretty much made Damian Drake. After that match, we knew that Damian Drake had the opportunity to possibly be somebody special. You know, Funny Bone's going to make you work in every match. And if you can't hang, we're going to know. But Damian Drake was able to hang with him and, you know, went on to a really good run for a few years till they met up again, where we felt that was a great time to do it. Damian Drake was the No Limits champion. And, you know, I'm not even sure but it's possible that Funny Bone may have asked me for the match. I don't remember. But all I know is I'm glad we did it. And, you know, him and Damian Drake, as we said, was probably the best match on the show, but because it won match of the year. You know, our fans really got behind that. And it's, you know, watching Funny Bone, he comes and he always brings his A game. When he wrestled Sinn Bohdi, I believe at the anniversary show, yeah. And it was the Heaven and Hell match. And another one, he carried the old man Sinn Bohdi to a good match. A great match. You know, ask Funny Bone. He's taking all the credit for that.
Hell yeah, I take all the fucking credit for that one. I bought the Lego.
He did say, though, he's still more handsome than you. He told me to tell you.
Fuck that guy. No, actually, I had Damian Drake's first match at a fucking Boys and Girls Club, too.
Wow, really?
I've known Damian Drake since he was fucking like 10 or 11. I trained his dad and had his dad's first match, and then I had Damian Drake's first match. So I'm fucking that old.
And when Damian Drake has his kid and is able to wrestle, Funny Bone's going to have his first match with him, too.
Yep.
I mean, how does that make you feel, Bone, in terms of, do you take a little bit of, I would assume that you do take a lot of pride in being able to help guys like Damian Drake not only get over, but understand what it is to use that psychology and wrestle and actually be in a pretty stiff, you know, fight where you man up and you give it and you take it. Is that something that you relish, getting that opportunity to give these kids an opportunity to grow up?
That's basically what I fucking do. Like, as we pointed out, I've been doing this for a very long time. I don't have many years in it. My job now is to make sure the generation after me is as good as me, if not better. My job now, I prefer to wrestle guys that aren't the big guys on the fucking show. Those guys are good enough. I've been here for a long time, and I have different training than most of these fucks. You know what I mean? I'll throw Scott Casey and Nick Bockelwinkle out there. They're old school trainers. For those of you fucks listening, Scott Casey was the guy that trained Booker T, by the way. Scott Casey is an amazing fucking trainer. He knows what he's fucking talking about. Nick Bockwinkel, bar none, one of the greatest professional wrestlers ever, an amazing fucking trainer. He thought so differently about wrestling and was able to explain to you in such a way that everything he said just fucking made sense somehow. I want to give that back to wrestling, you know what I mean? And I want to give these kids the best chance they have of making something out of themselves, or at least looking good while fucking it up.
Joe, when you're putting together a card, and like you said, in recent years, Bone is more of a special attraction. But when you were, kind of when he was more in the mix and you're putting on a card with him, how hard is it do you find a spot in like middle of the card, like before an intermission or close to the end? Because a lot of times with Funny Bone, you put him on before that main event. Funny Bone has just taken the air out of that main event because he's put on a match that, fans are still buzzing about. And now you
done that before. Me versus Cutthroat Cody in the steel cage was right before the main event. As soon as I walked in the back, Matt Hardy was like, well, fuck, I don't know how we're going to fucking go after that. That's awesome. Thanks, guys.
I mean, Joe, is that something that takes into consideration?
Well, everything gets taken into consideration. For Kevin Kross's last match, made the decision that, you know what, him and Funny Bone have never wrestled each other. Now, they may have wrestled like early on. I remember we were doing some kind of elimination thing, and it was like a 6-man tag. But
no. It was actually the fucking moment everything changed, Joe. I'll tell the story since you fucking forgot. It was Beast and Kevin Kross versus me and Sinn. That's when I went from the Funny Bone without this shit, and I stomped Sinn's fucking skull in. And then I turned into this.
I remember that situation. I just thought it was that 6-man, but I guess not.
Oh, that 6-man sucked. Literally, I had maybe 30 seconds in the ring with Kevin beforehand.
So I decided it's like, okay, Kevin wasn't 100% sure, but he was pretty sure as we were putting together the match that he was going to be gone. And it was like, well, Funny Bone has been, a Vegas icon for years. And Kevin was the current icon of Vegas wrestling. He was a guy that a lot of people perceived as, even though he had just done Impact Wrestling. So it wasn't like he wasn't anywhere. He wrestled AAA. He wrestled Impact. But the buzz was strong that he was going to WWE, and decided we were going to do Funny Bone versus Kevin Kross. And the problem was there was no feud going on. It was no escape. We had a couple of steel cage matches planned, and one of them happened to be Kenny King and Shogun going after the tag belts. And we initially had Funny Bone and Kross going on before we set up the steel cage. And Kenny came up to me and just felt that his match shouldn't be a steel cage match. So it was a late call, like right before the show started. And we said, you know what? You guys are going in the main event. And it turned out to be, once again, we made a decision to do something, and it ended up being the right decision because there's no way anything would have surpassed what happened that night.
Yeah. Bone, I thought that match was incredible. Just from the fact that Kevin took it, it wasn't like, hey, I'm out of here. Take it easy on me, bro. He took everything, and you jacked his jaw pretty good that night. But yet you got to sit right next to him as he was giving his, goodbye speech there because of his respect for you. Is that something that just organically, it just, that's something that at the end of the day, when you look back 30, 40 years from now, you go, you know what? That was a cool moment.
Now, I'll be honest with you. Yeah, we beat the fuck out of each other. I don't have a light switch as far as being light. I'm gonna hit you, and you're gonna fucking deal with it or cry about it. I don't fucking give a shit. I don't do things different ways. I do things my way. Kevin was a fucking man that night, and he took it. As he said, the moment of after the match, I remember him telling me that he was contemplating doing a farewell speech, and my only advice was to not do it in the ring. And that's because the fucking cage was up, and I wanted people to see his face. And I remember him like, you know, that's. I was thinking the same thing. Like we're kind of on the same page there. Like, but we want people to be able to see your face. And as far as me going up there and sitting next to him and everything like that, that was something that did happen on the spot. That wasn't something we planned or thought of. Right. I didn't know if I was going to be able to get up on there, you know, after that match and be able to sit down next to him. That was on the spot, like, hey, come sit down, motherfucker. That was completely and utterly organic and great for it. You know, and I wish that fucker all the best. I know he's injured, which I know because I know him is pissing him off.
Joe, when you look at the macabreness of the Funny Bone character, and you have the ideas for certain types of matches that can be done, has there been anything that crossed your mind? And Funny Bone, this would be the same for you, that might have been either, you know, a great idea that just couldn't be pulled off at a certain, you know, point in time, or is there an idea that you might have that you still haven't, pulled the trigger on yet?
I know we had talked because Sinn and Funny Bone kind of had like the long-running feud that never ended. You know what I mean? It would be like we would be able to rehash that at any time. And a few years ago, they ended up doing it on their own, but we had discussed about doing a crazy match at the Wheel of Misfortune. And we just weren't able to get things. Funny Bone was booked somewhere else, and then he was available, but Sinn wasn't. Then there was kind of a falling out with Sinn, and then he went and did his own thing, so we didn't really use him, and it never happened. And they ended up doing it just to do it, but it wasn't involved in a story or a promotion. And I really believe that if we had done it as part of something with FSW, that it could have been really something special. And that's the one thing, if I'm going to say we missed out on stuff. We had talked about a Heaven and Hell match a few years earlier, and, you know, we kind of put it together. But also the concept of what the Heaven and Hell match was going to be, there was a couple of different ideas. And, you know, one thing about Funny Bone is just like from the creation of his entrance, and, you know, people look at that and it's one of the best entrances in professional wrestling in the world. And, you know, he's always thinking, he's always trying to be creative. And, you know, how could you not appreciate that? Because I'm always trying to come up with some ideas that are going to be a little different, something that we haven't seen a million times before. So if you look at our roster, there's not many people who can pull off some of the things Sinn and Funny Bone can do. So unfortunately, that's why they kind of end up being against each other so much, that they're the ones capable. Like when we did the feud with Funny Bone and Cody, and I remember Sinn Bohdi we had on commentary, and it really led to the evolution of Sinn Bohdi, because he had just come off more of them they were doing a comedy tag team. It was Sinn Bone Square Pants, and I personally didn't care for it, but the crowd loved it, you know. And I just always felt that Sinn was more valuable as this demonic character, and he was evil. And after the match, I just remember, like, that's the Sinn Bohdi I want to see. And it really kind of upped the, you know, the feud between those two guys, because now Sinn was maybe more evil than Funny Bone. And we were able to take it to another level than where it may have been before.
Has there been any ideas, Funny Bone, that you've had that you haven't been able to do in terms of some kind of, you know, creative match that you've thought of in the past?
Well, there's the one he was talking about, but what I wanted to do with it is I wanted to start it at the Wheel of Misfortune, and I wanted to do it as a shoot just to see if we fucking could, of filming us there, filming us coming to FSW, and then whatever the fuck was going on at the time, let's just take it the fuck over and finish the match there. I didn't want to finish the match at the Wheel of Misfortune and just have fans watching on a fucking screen. I think that's just lame. I think I wanted to do it as a complete fucking shoot of us going from one to the other, and just whatever the fuck was going on, we just fuck it over and finish the fucking match. We had an idea of a fucking buried alive match, but nobody will let us do it because they're a bunch of assholes. Don't want a bunch of dirt in their fucking venue, but whatever. First fucking buried alive match on the fucking indies, and they fucking ruin it. I have a fucking idea for something every fucking 5 minutes. I literally, like, as he said, like, creativity is obviously my best. I literally thought of this shit today. I've never painted my fucking face like this. I just fucking, I make shit up as I go along, and I try my best. I have a bunch of ideas for a bunch of fucking things. And I just fucking, most of the time, I'm like, I probably could do that. Let's go.
Joe, when you look at Bone as the No Limits champion, what was your thought process behind that, and did it deliver what you needed it to deliver?
As I said, I'm kind of a little Alzheimer-ish on the first title run, but the second title run was awesome. And, you know, I remember he beat Jacob Austin Young for that No Limits title. And then he went on a big run for a while. And, you know, a couple people have held the title twice, but the last time we saw Funny Bone in an FSW ring was at the Mecca, where he laid out the current No Limits champion, Ice Williams, who on the 24th is going to be cutting a promo because he hasn't forgotten what Funny Bone did. And, you know, we have, since we're starting to line more stuff up, you know, Funny Bone will get back into the mix, and we're just working on when it's going to be, you know, beneficial for both parties. And, you know, not a lot still going on, but if you check the social media, you see Funny Bone's been wrestling in Oklahoma and I believe Indiana and a few other places. So he usually gets booked up pretty quick. A lot of times I'll hit him up, but it may only be 2 or 3 weeks before the show. He's like, oh, I'm booked for that one. Oh, booked for that one. So, you know, we appreciate when he's going to be there as the attraction that he is. You know, he needs to go out, and he has to go out and earn and take care of his family. So we're just happy to have him when, you know, everything works out, because we know we're going to have him, you know, a decent amount of times in the year, but it's also trying to put together certain things. And as I said, right now, you know, I would think that Ice Williams might be next on the agenda for Funny Bone.
Well, of course, Ice didn't fucking forget what I did to him. His neck's probably still hurt. I dropped him on his fucking skull and held his belt above his half-dead body. As far as Ice Williams goes, he might be out of my weight class right now. Difference between me and him is he stayed the same size, and I've gained about 40 pounds.
Yes, you've been hanging out with Super Beast. We've been seeing how how much bigger Funny Bone's gotten over the last few months.
Fucking monster shit. This is a 2X tank top that's snug as shit on me. I'm not fucking around.
How important is that to you, Bone? Are you starting to take your body building more seriously now that you are getting a little bit older? And, I know as we're kids in our 20s, you can bounce right back up, but as you get older, it's more important to take care of yourself. Are you looking to kind of extend it a little bit?
No, realistically, I've always been at the gym and working out as much as I can. The only difference when I'm training or when I'm on the road 200 days a year versus when I'm not doing a fucking thing, I have an opportunity to actually like bust my ass in the gym and eat right and shit like that. It's motherfuckers like Super Beast and motherfuckers like Brian Cage and Hammerstone. I don't know how the fuck they eat right and shit on the fucking road. I can't eat right for shit when I'm on the fucking road. I've always been able to hit the gym and everything like that, but you're not going to put on size unless you're eating like a fucking monster. I've been, like you said, I've been hanging out with fucking Super Beast doing monster shit. I'm like 225 something, 230 pounds, whatever the fuck it is. I don't know. I don't weigh myself. But no, it's always been a thing for me to work out and stay healthy. I've just never had a lot of chances to put on size. Because I've never had fucking time to just sit back and relax. I've never had time for injuries to heal. Like I said, my collarbone's literally been broken since 2009. I don't fucking have an off switch. I just keep going. So if I'm injured, I can't lift heavy if I'm injured. I just lift. Now that all this bullshit's going on, I'm not going to give it a name, but I've been able to lift right and eat right, and Brody's got his own gym, so I've been able to go to the gym regardless of what fucking time it is or where I'm at, what's going on. I got to key to the goddamn thing.
Nice. You did do the GCW show in Indiana just a few weeks back, and my question for you is, when you are dealing with different promoters across the country, is it a totally unique experience with the different promoters as opposed to someone like Joe, who very well, and his likes, his dislikes, and his yeses and his nos? Do you have to approach things a little bit differently when you're dealing with other promoters?
Not really. I kind of just do whatever I want. If they don't like it, I'm like, oh, my bad. If they do, I'm like, yeah, great. I do some things with Joe's permission. I do some things without Joe's permission. If it's something ridiculously stupid, I usually mention it to him at least. When it's other promoters, I kind of, it depends. Like the show I did in Oklahoma, they have a strict commission there. Like the commission literally sits in the back and watches the shows.
Right.
So I had to ask them if there's any fucking like actual like laws I can't break. There was gonna be some too. I don't fucking know. But if they didn't have a rule against it, I fucking did it. Not the last time I was in Oklahoma, but the first time I stapled Super Beast in the dick. They didn't have a rule against staples, so I did whatever the fuck I wanted. The show in Indianapolis and stuff like that, they didn't have any rules per se, so I was like, oh, I'll do whatever the fuck I want. Most of the time when I go out of town, I'm very heavy on character control on what I do. I basically ask them what is the strict rules I'm not allowed to do, and then I just do whatever the fuck I want besides that.
Joe, was there anything that Bone's ever done that really has, just caught you off guard, where you had to have a little word with him afterwards?
No, because, in many of the situations, the match that we put Funny Bone in was what we expected him to do. He was the guy we wanted to put in that position. If I'm going to make Nick Gage come in, obviously he's got to work Funny Bone. And I'm going to give them the freedom to do what they need to do in terms of the rules. Like, you know, I'm sure Funny Bone wouldn't have gave a shit if we brought out the light tubes, but we would have never been able to do Sam's Town again. So Nick Gage was aware of it. Funny Bone was aware of it. So they couldn't do some of the stuff that if we did it at the FSW arena, I'm pretty sure they would have did a lot more crazy shit because it wouldn't have been a big deal, you know?
I actually wouldn't do light tubes at the FSW arena. It's too small.
Yeah, probably.
If the crowd doesn't have a chance to move away in time, I'm not going to do it. I give them like 30 seconds to fucking move. If they don't move in 30 seconds, they can fuck off. One of the last times, what was it, like last December, I did a dive into the crowd. I gave them good 30 seconds. That's enough time to run. With light tubes, they don't really have they don't know where it's going to go, so they don't really have a chance to run out of the way. Everything else is pretty much fair game, though.
What is the most brutal match you've done, Bone?
Man, I've done a couple of them. The match with Sinn was pretty rough. I had a match with Drexel a little bit after the match with Sinn. It was very rough, mostly on him, though. I put skewers in his head and then poured lemon juice on it. I'm fucking friendly. I've had matches with Mike Grain where my back was covered in thumbtacks and then he stood on my back. That was less than fun. I've done a bunch of Lego shit. I've done a bunch of staple shit. I don't fucking know, man. A lot of them sucked. One of them that's up there is actually the steel cage match with Cody. One of them that's up there is I did a last being standing match with Chupacabra for Hood Slam, and the finish was actually a Spanish fly. So the backflip gimmick off the top rope, through a ladder and a chair, and that felt fucking wonderful. Let's see. I've had a steel cage match with Mike Rain, where the finish was he actually gave me a power driver off the top rope through 6 chairs in the ring. So obviously that one didn't feel great.
Wow.
I've done a bunch of dumb shit. Mike Rain is a big heavy one that I do dumb shit with. Sinn's a heavy one. Choopy whenever we get a chance. We've done a show in FSW, it was a Freak Show Wrestling, so a show in Vegas. We did a bunch of stupid shit. He actually 2 times he's done a fucking moonsault holding a trash can and landed on my fucking face. So you can kiss my fucking ass. I think the last being standing match, I actually grabbed a handful of thumbtacks and grinded them into his forehead. Took a swig of a bottle of Jack and spit it on it. So fuck him. Fucking Chupacabra.
Joe, is there a moment that sticks out to you that you can say was something that you had a laugh about with Funny Bone and something he's done, or just is there any kind of stories that stand out to you?
I wouldn't say anything that made me laugh, but like the first time that he jumped off the balcony at Silver Nugget was kind of like, holy shit, I just can't believe this motherfucker did that. And then we continued to see that wasn't an oddity, that was the norm, and that's what we'd expect, when you see a Funny Bone match. You're going to see, the one thing we always laugh about is, his 22-minute entrance. And it's like, we basically try to tell everybody else to get in the ring because, we got to finish the show in 3 hours. So, Funny Bone needs his 19 minutes to walk around.
2 minutes, 35 seconds on the fucking dot. I timed my fucking entrance, asshole. Hey, real quick, I have the first ever pyro in a fucking indie show. I set up my casket one time. I could send you the clip of it later. Or I opened the casket, a button was hit, big fireballs came up. So I deserve my fucking time. I've climbed out of a fucking grave site before for an entrance. I fucking brought Papa Shango. He brought me back from the fucking nether realm.
That was at the Silverton. I remember that one.
You know, I make an entrance. That's what I fucking do. So I get my fucking 2 minutes and 35 seconds. My 2 minutes and 35 seconds is better than half the fucking show.
So, you know what? I'd have to say it's been better than some of the matches I've seen over the years in terms of, the pure theatrics is amazing. What are you a fan of Rob Zombie's films? Are you a fan of his music? What brought about the using the theme song for House of a Thousand Corpses?
It's one of my favorite movies. A lot of the ideas of how I perceive myself is taken from ideas of that movie. You know, same with the second, same with the third. I own them all. Very good films, especially when you're trying to think of monster motherfuckers, because that's exactly what they are. You know, like when I first started doing the character, he was not a fan favorite. There's actually a moment where it completely switched. And I remember that moment. I first came out against Jacob Austin Young and beating the fuck out of him. Not a fan favorite. When I first won the belt, I was not a fan favorite. I had the stuff with Cody and everything like that, and I turned myself into a fan favorite actually before that match with just one move. I used to have minions, 3 fuckers that helped me with my really cool entrance. One of them stayed on the ground on all fours, and the other 2 opened up the ropes. I walked up one's back into the ring and just walked straight in. When I first did that, I used to get a lot of bullshit from the fans that I couldn't win matches without them. So my idea beforehand, because we wanted to turn me into more of a fan favorite, which I don't wrestle like a fucking fan favorite. I do whatever the fuck I want. I actually remember my match with Damian Drake. I was stepping on his neck in the corner, and the crowd started chanting "Funny Bone." And I remember him specifically saying, "That's fucking bullshit," as I'm choking him. Like, as soon as I got my foot off his neck, he's like, "That's fucking bullshit." I'm like, "Shut up." But I don't wrestle as a fan favorite. All I had to do to turn from a fucking the big mean heel bullshit to a fucking fan favorite is I grabbed the microphone and I told the fans, I'm like, "You guys all fucking say that I can't win a match without these fuckers." And they're like, "Yeah, you can't." Bullshit. I told them to get in the fucking back. And I had a ring girl at the time who used to throw dead roses in front of me for me to walk on. I told her to get in the fucking back too. And before the end of that fucking match, they were chanting my goddamn name again. But I mean, fucking wrestling, man. The theatrics, the entrances, all that stuff. That's my favorite shit, man. I like to make a fucking entrance. I like to put some energy into it, especially when we have big shows. The bigger the show, I have more of the WrestleMania style entrances. I always have fun with it.
And Joe, who does Bone tell you the idea for the entrance, and who then has to help come up with the way that it's going to get executed?
He handles all of it, you know. He comes up and, you know, when he first said, he's like, "Hey, I got this thing I'm going to do, blah, 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 blah." So, you know, I've known him for 20 years. I'm pretty sure that he's going to come up with something entertaining. He's always tried to be one of the most entertaining wrestlers. So I'm pretty sure that his entrance was going to be entertaining also. And then he had a couple ideas, like you said. I remember at the Silverton where he came up from underneath where it seemed like he was coming out of the grave. And it was like always trying to take another step to where, you know, even though they're going to enjoy the match, you know, whether it's hardcore, whether he's working TJ in that match, you know, from beginning to end, you know, that's his 15, 20-minute window to, you know, try to be the best match, the best thing that people are going to remember, you know, at the end of the day. And, you know, to me, it's like, it seems like it's very important to him to make sure the fans leave there, you know, extremely happy with what they just saw in a Funny Bone match.
So as we kind of get to a little bit of a wrap up of you know, your history of you guys together, what has Joe meant to you, Bone?
Joe's the only guy in Vegas that kept me wrestling in fucking Vegas. You know what I mean? Like, this is where my family is. This is where I started off. I have fans. Jamie Marks, motherfucker, saw my first match. He still comes to shows today. You know, that for me as a wrestler and a fan of wrestling is important. Joe's the only motherfucker that hasn't fucked up to where he lost his company or whatever, whether it's fucking Rush, who just gave it up because, you know, like balls, I don't know, or the fuckers that spend all their money, or guys that just can't do it anymore because it's too fucking hard or some bullshit like that. Joe's the only motherfucker that's been consistent. You know, wrestling in front of my fucking kids is important to me. You know what I mean? And wrestling in front of my actual fucking friends and family is important to me. You know, I have 7 fucking kids. My last goal in professional wrestling is to make sure they remember me wrestling. And I don't want to do it like fucking Goldberg, where I leave for fucking 6 years and then I come back and I'm like, oh, I'm the champion. That's lame ass bullshit, Goldberg. You fucking suck. I'm glad you got knocked out in your fucking match, you shithead. I don't want to be that guy, so I'm going to keep wrestling and keep doing this, and hopefully FSW will be here so I can do it in front of my fucking family and do it in front of my fucking kids. Because, you know, I want to be a superhero to them. Fuck it. I'm not shy about that bullshit. You know, so I appreciate him as much as I could appreciate a person who runs a company in fucking Las Vegas for me to come do my shit. That's the nicest thing I'm going to say about Joe.
Joe, any rebuttals to Funny Bone and what he means to you?
Well, first off, that's probably the nicest thing he's ever said to me.
That is the nicest fucking thing I've ever said to you.
You know. You know, it's really amazing from, like I said, the first time we met back at Rush's school to see the evolution, you know, of that kid coming in. But I remember that big blonde hairdo, and to see where he is now. And, you know, he's 20 years in and he hasn't lost a step. You know, he's probably better now than he was 5, 10, 15 years ago. You know, he dedicates everything to do. You know, I see the pictures, you know, working out. He has gotten huge. So, you know, let's get this stuff going. And, you know, I'm excited to see where the future goes, because a lot of times people will say, hey, what about this match? Hey, this guy over here, well, you know, what do you remember? And just thinking about from when we started at FSW, how many matches that I remember that Funny Bone performed in. You know, I talked about TJ Perkins, Jacob Austin Young, Nick Gage, the matches with Sinn, the one with Kevin Kross, Damian Drake. You know, these are some of the best matches, you know, in FSW history. So sometimes it kind of goes under the radar, maybe because of the fact that he isn't with us all the time. But when you look back at the body of work, you know, there's no doubt when he's ready to hang him up that Funny Bone is without a doubt an FSW, a Las Vegas Wrestling Hall of Famer. And that's it. You know, he's the guy. He's done it for an extremely long time, and he's done it at a very high level for a very long time.
Final question for you, Funny Bone. Where do you see yourself fitting in with the new television tapings? You know, having just kind of things getting rolling. Are fans going to be hopefully able to see you on FSW TV?
I mean, if the people in charge of it are smart, yeah. I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I show up and I still shows. You know what I mean? Like whether it's I don't know what year it was. It was some years ago. I don't know if it was last year or the year before. Joe was saying I was a great local wrestler, and I rebutted with I wrestled more in Canada than Las Vegas this year, so I don't know if I would be local as much as just a resident. You know, this is what I do for a living. You know, I fucking wrestle. I'm really fucking good at it. I'm not very good at things in life. Pretty good at face paint. I'm good at lifting heavy things and then putting them back down. And I'm fucking good at wrestling. Oh, I'm good at making kids too, apparently. That's a different podcast. So, I mean, I know myself and my skill set. If they want something good on TV, they would put me on it. Not slowing down my entrance or speeding up my entrance, though, so they can fuck off with that.
And Joe, is it possible that we'll see Funny Bone on TV?
Absolutely. As I said, you know, we're talking about, you know, doing a bunch of shows down the line, and we're already trying to figure out his schedule and, you know, if the dates match up. And again, will all of them match up? Absolutely not. But are we going to be able to have them? Like I said, you know, there's some unfinished business between Ice Williams and Funny Bone, and we'd be a fool not to tape that for television. So, you know, hopefully we can get things work. You know, maybe Ice Williams doesn't want any piece of Funny Bone, and maybe it won't happen. But I'm pretty sure, you know, he's young, he's cocky, he thinks he's better than everybody anyway. You know, Funny Bone is definitely a guy that Ice Williams, if he wants to consider himself, you know, one of the best in Vegas, you know, that's the guy he's going to have to beat.
If Ice loses his balls, there's other people with other belts that I'll gladly take from them.
Well, on that note, thank you, Funny Bone, for joining us. I really appreciate it. I'm sure the fans are, you know, just going to be mesmerized, and the paint job looks phenomenal, dude. You know, for being something spur of the moment, that looks awesome. It reads so cool.
Awesome. Glad you like it. That's what I did it for you, right?
Exactly. All me, man. But you know, we as wrestling fans, you know, we appreciate you, man. And I think that sometimes when you're out on the road so much as you are, you don't get to hear that enough, that, you know, you're definitely respected by the boys and you're admired by the fans, and definitely appreciate that, man.
I very much appreciate those nice words. Also, by the way, you can buy this fucking tank top at storefrontier.com/DGod Funny Bone. It's fucking awesome, just like me. I appreciate you having me on. It's fun. I like doing this kind of bullshit because I don't get to talk a lot in wrestling, and I'm a witty motherfucker, so it's always fun to talk and say some shit. Especially if I get to make fun of Joe a little bit. It's a fucking hobby, really.
That's a bonus.
Yeah, it's definitely a bonus. By the way, I like you talking shit earlier about me and Alcatraz and all them not having hair looking the way you do. Like, I shave my head to be bald.
Well, the crazy thing is, between you, Alcatraz, Modest, and Sally, I do have the most hair.
Do any of them do anything besides me?
No.
Yeah, they're not fucking relevant then, are they? By the way, I do actually like Sally. I want to do awful things to him.
Well, we'll hopefully get to see you do those awful things to Sally one day. But for now, that's it for the DeFalco Files. Everyone, please download, subscribe, and share, and tell your friends that, you know, this is the show to listen to, because you get the inside information right here with Joe DeFalco every week. And until next time, goodbye, everybody.
And don't forget, you can see it live on Twitch next week.
Absolutely. Absolutely.